Congrats. You've just been hired or promoted into a management position. So what are the essential things that you need to know to be successful as a new manager? Well, that's exactly what I want to talk about today. A lot of our coaching and training is really geared towards existing and experienced managers looking to improve their management and leadership abilities. But well, I received a really nice comment recently from a client saying that, this is information that she wished that she had when she was just starting out. So I want to share with you what I feel are some of the most important things that you need to know, to recognize, do, or avoid in order to be the most successful in your new role. So number one, without a doubt, is that your priority is the team, not the tasks. Now, this is a completely different mindset than what probably got you the job in the first place, especially if you've been promoted from within. You were successful in your old role by completing tasks, the tasks that you were assigned, and doing a really good job. Most often, people are promoted because of the length of service that they have with the company, or because they've shown really good aptitude in the technical skills of a job, and they get promoted in order to lead others to be as successful as they used to be. This mistake is really, really common, not only for new managers, but for even people who have been in management roles for a really long time. And it's not understanding what actually defines their success. It's super important to understand that your job as a manager is to make sure that your team has what they need to be successful. Now that you are managing people, you cannot get into the everyday weeds of the job that you used to do. If you do that, it's micromanaging, and it will absolutely kill productivity, trust, respect, motivation. It's one of the biggest mistakes and most common mistakes that we see when we're helping people in their new roles. The team's success is the indication of your success. And whether the team trusts you will make or break your success as a new manager. Building trust early absolutely needs to be a priority. And it's one of the greatest ways that you can do that to make sure that your team has the tools, resources, and information that they need to be successful in their role. Now, if you are managing a team that and it's a job that you used to do, then you might actually have some really good insight as to what tools and resources that may be. Share them with your team, but get out of their way. Give them what they need to be successful, allow them to do the job, and just make sure that the outcomes are being achieved. If they know that you are there to help them when they run into challenges and questions, that will build trust. If they think that you're only there to serve yourself, you will never gain their respect and trust that you need to be successful. I've worked with way too many business owners who could never work on actually building their business because they were too busy working in their business. And the same principle applies whether you are the owner of a business or a manager. You have a team that is responsible for the daily activities, the tasks, and you need to become an expert not in doing those tasks, but in managing the team and letting them complete those tasks. So as an example, several years ago, I worked with a new business owner who had just purchased the company. They inherited a number of staff who had been with the company ranging from 2 to 10 or more years. And one of the biggest challenges that this person had was trying to lead people who were older than they were and who had way more experience, not only doing the job, but in a company that they had never worked in before. And it caused a fair amount of conflict because the business owner had a very particular way that they wanted things to be done. And they kept getting into the weeds of the actual tasks that needed to be performed. And particularly with this one employee who had, I don't know, at the time they had 10 or 12 years with the business, and they wanted to ensure that everybody was doing things their way, that the tasks were completed their way. They were more focused on making sure that people were doing things the way they wanted them to be done, rather than focusing on the outcome and the results of that work. Now, I'm not saying that the business owner was wrong to make sure that staff were doing what they were supposed to do. You absolutely have to do that. The problem was that they were so focused on the tasks that they were driving the team crazy. They knew what they wanted people to do, but they didn't give their team the freedom to actually get the tasks done because they were always in the way. The advice that I gave them, and the advice that I'd give you as well, if you find yourself in a similar situation, is that you need to create clear expectations about what needs to be accomplished. And especially with experienced staff, you don't have to set how they do the tasks. You have to set the standards for the outcomes. For the business owner, it required a lot of coaching in order to help them get out of that day-to-day rut and to monitor the results that their team was producing rather than the team's every move. So number 2 is that you need to celebrate other people's success. Right off the bat, I want to make this very, very clear that recognizing the accomplishments of others does not in any way diminish your accomplishments. Celebrating the success your team members are having in their roles is one of the simplest ways to show that their contributions are seen and that they are valued. And we all want to feel that our contributions are being valued. In fact, over half of workers feel that respect is the number one most important factor in feeling like they belong. What it also does is it sets the stage for a workplace culture that is built around building other people up rather than tearing them down. Now, I'm confident that 99% of the people who are watching this video will have lived experience working in an environment that seemingly encourages that backbiting behavior. But I can remember specifically hating working at that job and despising my manager at the time, who seemed to get a kick out of what they thought was a so-called competitive environment. Competition is not a bad thing. Competition is good. It can make us strive to improve, to win, and create a healthy team dynamic. But what my old boss failed to recognize is that they hadn't created a competitive environment. They had fostered a toxic environment. So next up, own your mistakes because you're gonna make them. And this is a tough one for a lot of us. Nobody likes making mistakes, and we like it even less when other people know that we've made a mistake. But here's why it's so important that you as a new manager are willing to actually acknowledge when you screw up. Everybody makes mistakes, and pretending otherwise is just dumb. And letting people know that making a mistake isn't the end of the world will create trust, and it builds what we call psychological safety. Now, we've got another video that goes into detail on what psychological safety is, and you may want to check that out because it's one of the most overlooked, but also incredibly important aspects to the workplace. So the other thing that it does when you're actually willing to acknowledge that you have made a mistake is that it encourages people to speak up and share their ideas. If they know that when something goes wrong, that you're not going to jump down their throat, that they are safe to make mistakes because you have made mistakes, they will share their ideas more. They will speak up when they have something that they need. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that your role as a manager is to make sure that people have what they need to be successful. But if they don't feel comfortable actually talking to you and telling you what they need to be successful, then they're not going to have the success, and therefore you will not have the success that you need to have in your role. And perhaps the most important thing is that if you hide your mistakes from your team, they will hide their mistakes from you. Now, I'm not saying that every time something doesn't work out properly or exactly as planned, you need to call the whole team together and go step by step through exactly how you messed up and here's all. No, that's not what I'm saying. What this actually looks like is being open and honestly acknowledging that when something doesn't work out, either you've made a bad decision, because you're gonna, or something doesn't go the way that you intended it to, that it's not the end of the world, and that you can use it as an opportunity to look for ways to improve. So finally, the last one that I want to talk about right now is that you need to be friendly, not friends. If you've been promoted into a management role over former colleagues, then please, I'm begging you, take this advice to heart, because the nature of your relationships have changed. You can be friends with your former colleagues outside of the work environment, that's fine. But you and they have to recognize that the nature of the relationship has changed. And to do this, my best advice to you is to acknowledge it upfront. If you are working with the team, or if you are now managing the team that you used to work alongside, one of the first things that I would do is in an early team meeting, acknowledge that things have changed, acknowledge that there is a bit of that your relationship has changed with the team, but you don't need to set up these false walls. You don't need to become a completely different person. You don't need to shut down and no, I can't talk to you, we can't be friendly, and you're now a hard ass at work. Because if that's not who you are, then it comes across as superficial, it comes across as fake, and it removes that trust and respect that we were talking about. The relationships that you already have with your team are a huge asset. If they know you and they trust you and they like you, then that's great. That means that you have a head start over somebody who may be coming in without those relationships. But it's critical that you maintain a separation between being friendly and being friends. Now, if you have been newly hired into the role, the principle is the exact same, but instead of changing the nature of the relationship, of existing relationships, you're trying to build rapport with people for the first time and getting to know them, getting to know the people, their interests, passions, hobbies. All that good stuff is important, and it's a big part of being able to build a rapport with people, but it's definitely a line that should not be crossed. And here's the reason why you need to keep that separation. I don't care if you've just been promoted into the job or if you're a new hire into the job, you need to keep that separation, because at some point, somebody will try to take advantage. It may not even necessarily be intentionally taking advantage, but they're going to want to use your friendship to get a better assignment, to get out of an unwanted task, or some other small perk that not everybody has available to them. And once you've given into these requests, you will lose credibility with the rest of your team. And as I said at the beginning, your responsibility as a manager is to give the team what they need. And that's give the entire team what they need, not play favorites and not give your friends the choicest assignments and roles, because that will destroy your relationship with everybody else. And part of all of this is letting everybody know that they will be treated fairly and equitably. And as a manager, I've said it before, and I really want to reiterate this point because I feel it's so important. Your team's success is the indication of your success. Now, we have a whole bunch of videos on our channel that will talk about how you can create a healthy workplace culture where everyone can feel respected, trusted, encouraged, and inspired. So please subscribe to stay up to date, and we'll see you next time.